And they're 7 feet tall, I think.
Yummy.
Yeah.
Perfect
Really
for my 5'2".
Big.
Let's be real there.
You'd be speaking to like his belly
dick?
button.
Yeah. It's dick. Yeah.
I was trying to be family friendly, but okay. And welcome back to another episode of Romancing the Monsters. I'm Em.
Hi, I'm S.
I'm Seth.
And this week we have a special episode of Romancing the Monsters because we are talking about all things best of 2020, whether it's TV shows,
whoop, whoop.
movies, books, everything we loved, with a few honorable mentions because we just couldn't help it.
Okay, few being the key word. Few being the key word, but okay.
Yeah. So anyway, how it's gonna work is that we each have 5, right? 5 things?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
5, yeah.
5.
In quotations.
Yeah.
Who wants to start? I feel like it's always me, so it's not me this time around. I am throwing someone else under the bus.
I'll go. It's fun. Okay. So I'm starting things off with a bang.
Literally? Or figuratively? Or both?
Tell us about the bang, Seth.
Probably both.
Well, I mean, I guess it could be literally. I'm going to start off with the Demonized series by Annette Marie. So literally, yes, a bang. Figuratively, yes, a bang.
Extraterrestrial? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, otherworldly, yeah. Comprised of 4 books, our main characters are Robin and Xylus. I'm saying it wrong. He would kill me if I said it, the way it was supposed to say. How do you say it again?
Xylus, I think.
Xylus.
We have
Xylus.
an entire podcast coming your way about this book in which we try to pronounce his name correctly and fail miserably. So.
Yeah, so we have an episode on book 1, so look out for that in the near future. So I'll just do a quick rundown. Robin is the main character. She has powers, no training in it whatsoever, and then, this world is also comprised of summoners and demons, and her uncle ends up being a summoner of demons, and then she has the opportunity of finally meeting Xylus, which is a demon that's captured by her uncle, and he's living in the basement, and situations happen where she needs to form a contract with him, and he helps her out of a situation, and then basically all 4 books are, it's a story of them, and, how they overcome, their big demon, their big evil.
Pun intended?
So it's very much their journey individually as it is together because both characters have immense growth. I loved all 4 books and I read them one night after the other. I was not sleeping at all, reading all of these books, and I'm pretty sure Marge can vouch for that as well.
How is this series not a fever dream in your head? Because, you read them so fast and you were literally not sleeping for, 4 days. So I'm just wondering, how can you still remember anything?
That's the problem. If we were to ever do an episode for, books 3 to 4, I'm probably going to have to do, a reread or something. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it.
To be honest, though, I don't remember much besides the cheeky bits, which...
Yeah, same.
They're good. And I should also, why can't I speak? I should also say that this series is hella slow burn.
Oh, yeah.
From book 1 all the way to book 4, I'm telling you, it is a slow burn. And, S, you can also vouch for that.
Yeah. So we all obviously loved it. And you should read it. Don't fear.
It has it all.
It has it all.
It has the action, The romance, yes, the action, the humor,
the sweetness.
yes, and it even made me cry. And it's also very horny. What else would you want?
is.
What else do you need in 2021?
And it has enemies to lovers, but you can argue it's enemies to friends, then friends to lovers. It has the grumpy sunshine.
I would argue it's not even enemies to lovers. It's like, we can't understand each other to we kind of understand each other to we finally understand each other. I feel like, if that's even a trope.
I mean, it kind of did start off enemies to lovers in the sense where, not enemies to lovers. I feel like it's enemies to, like, acquaintances.
But just because they can't understand each other.
And also Xylus, you know, would have, like, killed her if she wasn't promising him.
Because we kind of all know he could have killed her and he never did.
Exactly.
But she was promising him something that, you know, he thought that she could deliver. So, I don't know. It's not turning into the Xylus
There's a
and
podcast
Robin
episode
podcast,
coming your way.
so.
Just be excited for that. I mean, I guess. I don't actually remember if it was a good conversation or not, because it was ages ago.
I really hope it was, because this book deserves a good conversation. So yeah, if you're looking for any of that, any of what we just said, this is really the series for you. It's so good.
It feels a little bit more sci-fi to me than paranormal, for some reason.
Does it?
I don't know. I think it felt very much paranormal for me. I feel like it's very similar to, like, not similar in the sense of, like, the romance, but, like, Amelia Hutchins. Like, it's very similar in that type of world where it's, like, it's modern, but there's knowledge of, like, witches and all that stuff in that world. So it's very much paranormal. Or urban fantasy. That's what it's called, right?
Urban fantasy is not really romance, though. But the reason why I say that is mostly because I'm so used to reading demons that are kind of very human, just with demon tendencies, whereas Xylus is very demon. Like, he is otherworldly, I mean, as we said. So maybe that's why it feels kind of sci-fi-ish to me, because it's so different. It's like, he's not human in any way, shape, or form. So, well, I mean, he has his moments.
I mean,
he has certain bits that do feel pretty human.
Certain attributes.
Oh, spoilers!
Oh. No, I was also going to say, he has a tail! So if you're into tails...
And horns. And fangs.
Xylus is for you. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. And Robin, she's such a kick-ass female. Like, her growth as a character is amazing. But anyways, next, let's go.
All right, I'll go. So the first book on my list is called Fate's Star by Elizabeth Vaughan, I think is how you pronounce that. This is a fantasy romance novel. And in this world, the big thing is essentially that humans and elves are at war with each other. Elves, I believe, have most of the power, if not all of it, and humans are kind of subpar in this world. They're kind of seen as lesser than. And our heroine is obviously a human who has just lost her whole family, and so she's seeking refuge in one of the elf territories because her village has essentially been burnt down, if I remember correctly. So she has no one, and Warna is an interesting character because she's a very feminist character, in my opinion, without being, your typical fierce, badass fantasy heroine that you're used to seeing, or at least in recent years, like that archetype sort of has really gotten quite popular, I would say, which there's nothing wrong with it, and I love a fierce badass heroine who takes the sword and goes on the battlefield. But I do think there's something to be said, and so there's something quite refreshing sometimes with heroines like Warna, who, all she wants really in life is peace. Like, she's very content with the thought of having a house to tend to and children, and it's a very traditional future that she's seeking. But she fights for it. You know what I mean? Like, she fights for it. She demands respect. And she doesn't settle for anything less than that. And to me, that makes her just as feminist as anyone else.
Yep.
So essentially, in walks our hero, who is Varys. He is a baron. So he's one of, like, the high-ranking, well, I mean, I guess he's, like, nobility, right? Among the elves. So he goes there, and he finds her. And, you know, he's a bit of a alpha male, if you will, especially in the beginning. And so he sees her, he's like, she's pretty, and she's unmarried. And he's like, of course, this lady cannot stay here. It is not safe for her, and so I will take her with me. And I emphasis on the take here because my man does not ask for permission. In fact, Warna is like, hell no, I don't know you. This is a scary world. My family just died. I don't know what to do. And I feel safe here. And he is like, but you're coming with me. And he literally takes her. And he brings her to his keep. Varys and his castle are very parallel to each other, if that makes sense, because he has witnessed the mass murder, essentially, of his people, and it scarred him, and as a result, he shut himself down, but he also shut down his entire keep, and so no one, except like a small part of it, because they have to live somewhere, right? So essentially, no one has been allowed since that night to enter the keep. So there's bloodstains on the floor. You know, it's still very haunted by the memories of what happened. And similarly, so is Varys. And so it becomes this like stale environment that's falling apart. It's dark. And it's dead. It's dead. And Varys is dead in many ways, essentially, as well. And so Warna, slowly, she starts reopening the keep. And this is, like, happening simultaneously with the love story, which is also forcing Varys to sort of reopen himself to the idea of joy and love and hope and moving on, you know, moving forward and dealing with this grief. Like, he's forced to deal with it. And she's also, like, really sneaky about it and, like, reopening the keep without his knowledge, like, room by room, and making it come back to life. And Varys is coming back to life.
Yeah.
And I love that because it just shows how Warna is just as powerful. You know, the changes that she's making behind the scenes, things that seem little or insignificant are just as powerful.
Yes.
And you know, maybe I'm reading too much into it. I'm aware of that. But to be honest, like, to me, a perfect book does not mean the best book. What makes the best book for me is a book that made me think or a book that made me feel. And, like, this story certainly made me feel. Like, the romance is good. Like, take everything I just said away. The romance is good in this book. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the action was good. The romance was good. Like, it's not the most unique plot, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. Like, don't get me wrong. But it did make me think, you know, and that aspect of it made me think, and I loved how the author explored that. And I just want to read part of the blog, what? Part of the blurb, okay, because I do think that it kind of words everything I just said a lot better. So it says, Varys of Tasonic has suffered the wounds of war, knowing loss and betrayal at the hands of those he trusted most. He buries himself in work and duty, behind emotional walls as high as those of his castle, rather than risk more pain. While dealing with a kingdom in political and economic turmoil, he rescues, and this is put in quotation marks because I think it's kind of a nod to the fact that he takes her and does not ask for permission. But he rescues Warna only to discover that the helpless human woman is anything but. Before he knows it, she is deep within the defenses of his heart, forcing him to confront his grief, his distrust, and the scars of his past. And maybe even steal his heart in the process. And that's exactly what I was trying to explain, but cool. Just said much better.
That actually sounds really good. I think I remember you talking about it earlier. So yeah, it's on my list.
so yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a fantasy romance, give this one a try. If you are interested at all in seeing how romance can kind of, we talk about how it's very internal for the most part, but in this case, it's an internal journey, but it's also an external journey, or it's expressed externally as well. So yeah.
All right, S.
Okay. So the first book on my list, which is 2 books, it's Wild at Heart and Forever Wild by K. Tucker. It's part of the Simple Wild series. It's a continuation story of Calla and Jonas's romance love story. So book 2, which is Wild at Heart, starts off like, I want to say maybe a couple weeks, maybe a couple months after the end of the Simple Wild. Okay. And it's just about her moving back to Alaska and starting her life with Jonah. The first book had to do with Calla starting a relationship with her father. The second book is more of the romance of Jonah and Calla trying to find a life for themselves. Okay, so the reason why I'm picking this story and why it's one of my favorites, because it's one of those stories that you can easily get lost in. The characters are really memorable. It's funny. It's sexy. It takes place in Alaska. It has like a really good set of characters. Like all the side characters are really memorable. I don't know. It feels like home. It feels like family for me when I started this series. And
those are the best series.
That sounds so good. And I love when side characters are good and memorable.
Yes, all of them are.
Because I feel like they play a big part in making that story a 5-star read.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the best thing that an author can achieve, is making you feel like you're coming home whenever a new book releases and you get to read it. This
is how that series feels. This series feels.
So it's not just a romance, right? 3 books aren't just romance. I think you said book 1 was about her forming a relationship with her father.
With her father, yeah. So but it starts a romance with Jonah, with the guy. But it's a bit of a slow burn. But it's not
that's not all that happens.
No. Okay, so for the third book, Forever Wild, it starts off right away. I think a couple weeks after the second book. It was just sweet. There was no added drama.
Was that a novella or?
It was a novella.
Okay.
No, it was a novella. It was a novella. And I'm excited because she's writing another series based on a character.
Ooh,
from one of the side characters. And so the side character, I have a lot of issues with her. She was one of the characters that wasn't my favorite. But I'm actually excited to see if whatever she writes kind of changes my perspective on her a little bit. So we'll see. But yeah, I recommend this series. It's The Simple Wild by K. Tucker.
It really sounds good. Okay, if you can give me again, tropes. What are some tropes that you think?
I think I'd say Grumpy Sunshine. Can that be a trope?
You could say small town probably too, right? Alaska is not the biggest thing on earth.
Small town.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. Okay, Grumpy Sunshine. I love Grumpy Sunshine.
Yeah. It is the best trope. It is.
It really is.
It's back to me? Okay. So I thought I'll shake it up. Let's do a TV show.
Ooh. I don't know what that sound effect was. Ooh. I've lost it.
Maybe let the computer make the sound effects next time.
Yeah, because that sucked.
It's okay. I love the enthusiasm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
From the person who doesn't watch TV shows. Thank you.
Seriously.
Okay, so first on my list in terms of TV shows, I'm going with Anne with an E.
Ooh,
Yay!
Yeah,
Good show.
so I actually just discovered this show like maybe a month ago. So it's fairly recent. I know, like, it's been out since 2017, and like your girl here, Seth, literally just discovered it. So I'm like, I'm riding that train now where I'm like, why the heck is this show canceled? So yeah, it's an adaptation of Anne of Green Gables, which is a very popular book series. Um, I don't even know what to say about the show. It's just literally so good. It's so basically, okay, Anne is an orphan and like she's had a really tough life, and she finally thought that she's getting adopted by a brother and sister who run a farm. But in reality, they thought they were getting a boy to help on the farm. And poor Anne is like, I'll do whatever you want. Like, I'll be a farmhand. I'll do whatever you want. Just please keep me, because she always wanted a home and she does not want to go back to the orphanage. Anyways, like, the show is just so good. And then she obviously they accept her and they want to keep her. And then like stuff happens and like they finally get her back. And yeah, it's just about a small village, like their problems and like their life and like Anne's story, like her growth as a character. Like Anne with an E is very much a heroine's journey, and like it deals with like friendships and, you know, Gilbert, who like is kind of her enemy at first, like not someone that she gets along with because he's her competitor at school, and obviously like that's her man. And I just feel like the show was so pure. Like
It really
it had good messages. Like every single episode had a great message about women's rights, or, you know, being gay in the 1900s. We had Cole as a character who very much didn't fit in. He got bullied all the time, and Diana and Anne helped him through a lot of things, and he finally found his place in the world. And even Diana and Anne, like just the pure best friend. You know, that whole idea of like having that one best friend that no matter what, they'll always be there. Like, I don't know, just the show was great. And it dealt with situations that were very touchy, like in terms of Indigenous peoples and their residential school. Like, they dealt with that, and like they did it, like, I mean, obviously it was just starting, because I'm pretty sure season 4 would have covered a lot more of things for that.
Have you read the book?
Situation. No, I haven't. I have them all though. I should read them.
I've read the first one, and I wonder if it's like what, because you said there's 3 seasons, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I wonder, does it complete the first book, or?
Oh, I don't know, you know, because okay, so season 3 ends with them graduating school and
so
going
yeah,
off
that's
to
essentially the end of the first book, I think.
Oh,
well,
okay,
I mean,
okay.
it goes a little bit beyond that, but I do think that the second book, it's like she's older, and like every book she gets older in life.
Yeah.
And like eventually she marries Gilbert, and like.
And then there's also like the idea of Bash, who's obviously, he's a black man coming from Trinidad, to Canada, like, you know, a small little village, Canada, and, you know, he's black. And just the way that like they dealt with that, and like them finding their identity in Canada, and the people of Avonlea, which is where they live, them accepting, you know, colored people, because they actually haven't really been exposed to colored people before. And it's just, I don't know how amazing Marilla was, which is Anne's adoptive mother, I guess you could say. And yeah, anyways, I can go on and on about the show. I really love it, and I highly recommend it. It's such a good show with great messages, and I really hope it comes back for a 4th season somehow, some way.
It's cool though, because it sounds like they added a lot, like all the everything you just mentioned, like the guy from Trinidad, and like the gay character and everything else, like that's all added from my memory anyway. Yeah, because that's
I can't imagine really that being in the book series. So. Yeah.
But so it's cool that they kind of took this story and expanded on it to talk about more things like that, which are just as essential in a coming of age story, right? So
yeah, and it doesn't feel like it's like a political message, or it's just them trying to like move with the times. It honestly fits the story, and it fits the characters, and the messages it gives you. Great. Like, I love how they dealt with so many things in that show. And with an E, guys, please watch it if you haven't. And if you have watched it, great.
I want to watch it. I just haven't yet, but we all know I suck at watching TV, so. All right. So, the next thing on my list is, I'm sure, not a surprise at all, but it is the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs. I'm not done yet. I think I'm on book like 6, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, though.
Oh, wait, this is not the Alpha and Omega series.
No,
so,
that is the Mercy Thompson series.
Oh, yes. So you haven't talked about this one yet.
Well, I mean, I kind of haven't. Because, okay, so I talked about the Alpha Omega series before in our Catch Up and Chill episode, the first one. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I had not started the Mercy Thompson series yet. Now I have, and I love it. And so this series is essentially about Mercy, Mercedes, I think her name is, who is a coyote shifter, who is also a mechanic. Whoa. So she's like a badass woman. And she gets wrapped up in like a bunch of investigations of like the supernatural nature, if you will. So like there's fae, there's vampires, there's humans and werewolves. And like she gets wrapped up into it because of her, well, in part because of her relationship with Adam, the local alpha, who, by the way, is dreamy. Okay.
I wish the listeners can see your facial expression and your hand gestures right now, because all of this together is great. Okay,
Adam
continue.
is just absolutely fine. I will say that. But anyway, so one thing I really liked about this series is how it depicts the ramifications of rape or sexual assault. So obviously, if that is a trigger of yours, this series is not for you. But what I do like is that, so she showcases the guilt, but also the guilt and shame that some of the survivors feel afterwards, after the fact, which is something that I feel you don't see that often. I mean, spoiler alert, Mercy definitely feels that. And it's like it's shown in like, okay, so like for example, she starts like taking more showers for no reason, like she just feels like she needs to shower, which is just, it's like shown in those kinds of ways where it's like subtle, but also like you understand what it says without needing to be told what it means. But also she adds like the paranormal element to it, because obviously Mercy is a coyote shifter and Adam is a werewolf, so like they have these like increased senses, which also has an impact on how she feels towards what happened, because like you have the mate bond and like how much of like how she feels like that's a betrayal in a way, even though obviously it was not her fault and shouldn't have happened, but like because of that, like she feels like it's a betrayal. And like anyway, it's really interesting how she does it, and she actually does touch upon the same subject in the Alpha Omega series. So if you want to hear me talk about that, you know what episode to go and listen to. But she does it in a different way. So I really appreciate how both series sort of look at the same subject-ish. Although Alpha Omega, it's more like it's sexual violence, but it's also like emotional violence as well, like emotional abuse. So I don't know. I don't know how to say it. And also I'm not done with the series, but I also like how this is like in progression. So like it happens earlier on in the series, but then with every book you sort of see how that evolves for Mercy. But it's also not like the whole plot. Like she still has all these adventures where she has to figure out who killed who and like whatever, but like that's the really human side of the series is what interests me the most, like just seeing these characters evolve and like how they start in the beginning to how they are 6 books in, 12 books in, whatever. Like it's really it's fun. Like I've grown attached to the characters in a way that I never would have expected of me and like her books.
Okay, so this is 12 books. I don't know how many books
for now
the series.
It's 12, but like it's gonna be more than that.
So this is 12 books with the same 2 characters? Like you're not really changing perspectives here? Or is it just in Mercy's
it's only Mercy's perspective, right? Yeah. So it's only her perspective, but there's a lot of characters. And like every book, I would say, she kind of switches it around. So like one book it will be like a fae problem, and then the next book it will be a vampire problem, and then so like you never really get bored cuz like the plot always changes and like it's always a new thing, and then you always find out something new about the world, or like I don't know. For me personally, the best books in the series are always the ones where you actually like see like a real milestone for the character, which is not like that doesn't happen every book, which is fine. Like in the series of 12 plus books, that's gonna happen. Like not every book is gonna be groundbreaking, but
yeah.
But I love it. I never would have anticipated that, because I really thought that I was just gonna like the Alpha Omega series because that's more romance focused. Though okay, here's the thing. Here's my gripe with this fandom. I was told that there was no romance in these books until like book 5 or 4.
Really?
So I fully anticipate, like I went into it not expecting anything. And like I am here to report back that I disagree with that. And I do feel like the romance starts in book 1. And like, is it heavy-handed? No. But do you get stuff? Yeah. So, like, if you're a romance reader and you're scared of that series, try it out. Try it out anyway. Because I don't think it's true that you have to wait 4 books for anything to happen. That's that on that.
I feel like that's a good point to make. Yeah.
Do you still consider it a slow burn?
I would say so. Like, okay, so how I would explain the romance in these books, it's like, so if you're reading a romance novel and they go on a date, you see the date on page, right? Like you read the date. You know what they've talked about, you know what they did, etc. In these books, if they go on a date, you don't see the date. They just mention that they've gone on a date. Unless it furthers the plot of like the investigation or something, because something happens. But so that's the difference.
So in what genre would you call this then?
Oh, urban fantasy.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, but like with a good side of romance, you know? I'm not starved.
So then would you argue that by book 5 the romance becomes more important, or like more?
I think why people say book 4 is because in book 4 is when like the relationship actually forms, like they actually make the choice, if that makes sense. Before then it's kind of like we're turning around each other, but like we definitely like each other.
Okay.
So
was this the book that you mentioned about intimacy?
No, that's the Alpha Omega series.
Okay.
So that's doing it differently. It's like in those books it's like intimacy is like the thing that they need to work on.
Okay. Okay.
Whereas here it's more exploring like guilt and shame attached to it, and just like how does one move on, and also how can one be in like a committed happy relationship when you just don't feel that way, or like how like say you've lived alone your entire life because you've never belonged to a pack, and then suddenly you do belong in a pack, and how does that feel? Especially when you've gone through something that was so invasive.
Yeah.
How do you deal with having people in your head now? Being connected with people that you don't necessarily want to be connected with. So it does it in different ways.
I feel like this author deals with very interesting topics.
Yeah, I would say so.
Like that's very, and like the whole idea of like mates, and how now she can hear her mate in her head. Like you said, it's invasive, and it's not something she wants.
Well, I mean, okay, they don't actually hear each other,
but like they have
in
that
their heads,
presence
but
there,
they
right?
feel that connection,
Yeah.
which like is like a struggle for Mercy in certain parts, because she's like, I just want to be alone. I don't want to, feel these people.
And her being a sexual assault survivor must be like really hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool.
Do you mean when you say like they're connected, like they feel each other's like emotions?
Kind of, yeah. Like if something's happening to someone, they can feel it, especially the Alpha, and like especially because she's mated to the Alpha, I think it like enhances how she feels those things.
That's really interesting. Okay.
I highly recommend it. Plus, Adam is fine. So, yeah.
Oh, I remember. Okay, so you were talking about Alpha and Omega and like that narrator for the audiobooks, and I remember you saying the narrator for this series was different. How do you?
Unfortunately, because Holter Graham is the love of my life, I would marry his voice in a heartbeat if I could. No, unfortunately, this is a woman narrating it, but to be honest, I've grown used to her voice, and I kind of like it. Like, it works for a character like Mercy. So
Okay.
it's not. I was afraid of the audiobooks here, but fear not, they're good.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks for reporting back.
Yeah.
You're welcome. All right, S. What's next?
Okay, so next on my list is Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed. It's the second book in her Game Changers series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The MM one.
The MM, yeah.
Yeah.
I freaking love this book. Like, it was really good. It's a hockey romance. And I feel like it's a, what are they?
Enemies to lovers?
Enemies with benefits.
Rivals to lovers?
Enemies, rivals with benefits to lovers.
Oh!
Yeah. So they're on opposite hockey teams. And, and ever since like they joined their teams, like
Scandalous.
Yeah, they're made out to be rivals. And like they build that, throughout the years. So every time they see each other, they're always like talking smack and like trying to get under each other's skin. But they have
I really want to read this right now.
Yeah, it's really good. So they have this like undeniable attraction, and like every time like after games, like they meet up in secret and they hook up. But out in public, like they're enemies, they're rivals.
Wow.
Are they like heated hookups though?
Yeah.
I mean, of course.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think I might go read this after this episode.
Yes, it's really good. It has good banter. Their relationship spans, I want to say, about 10 years.
Whoa.
So it's
in
kind
one
of
book?
Yeah. So I think it's split up into like 3-4 parts, and like the first 2 parts, they go back and forth to how they met, and then the present, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. I'm not too sure. But you see how they start off, you see how they build on, and I want to say they hook up a lot, and you see that. But I feel like their romance is like a slow burn. It takes them a while for them to open up and to be comfortable with each other. Yeah, it's really good.
Slow burn is just such a good trope.
It is.
Like, don't you
It's
just
the
feel
best
like
trope.
every book should be slow burn? Like, sometimes I read a book and I'm like, what excuse do you have not to be a slow burn? Like,
or like even when I'm watching TV shows and like they fall in love the first episode, I'm like, what the hell am I watching?
yeah.
No, I feel like
Yeah,
slow
I feel
burn is like really rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
yeah.
best thing.
Delicious.
Yeah. So I definitely recommend. I haven't read the other books in the series. I want to.
Ooh, it's a series.
Yeah, it's a series of different characters.
Is it all MM?
Interesting.
Yeah, I want to say it's all MM.
Yummy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who's the author again?
Rachel Reed.
I might go try this book out sometime soon. Do you recommend book 1? Because you're talking about book 2 right now, right?
I haven't read it. I heard this book was good, and I jumped into book 2, and so.
Huh. Okay.
Have you
Yeah.
read the Fake Boyfriend series by Eden Finley?
Yeah, I think I read like the first 2 or 3 books. That's a good series too.
That's a good series. That's a series to me that feels like home whenever I go back to it, which I haven't
Really?
in years because I just haven't been in the mood for MM. It just happens. But yeah, that's
It was
a
all the
good
Mpreg,
series.
you know?
Yeah, Mpreg sort of took over my life for a little while,
Yeah.
and now I'm just
You
in the
can't
historical
go
romance
back
land.
to regular MM.
Yeah,
You can't.
I mean, where's the nodding?
Exactly. Oh god.
Make
Marge.
it 2 hot hockey players, but like they cannot.
With knots.
Yeah.
With the
Make it
knots.
naughty, okay?
Yeah. What's your excuse for not having knots in your hockey romance?
And this would be hot.
Maybe
and then,
because it's contemporary.
I feel like we should make shirts with that on it. Like, what's your excuse for this not to be
Naughty.
Yeah.
I would wear that shirt every day.
I would.
Maybe
Yeah, I would
not.
too.
Probably not.
Anyway,
Yeah. So, I recommend it. It's good.
I feel like we have a very diverse list so far of like recommendations. Like it's all different kinds of books, like all different genres so far.
Yeah.
Look at us. I mean, I don't know. Congratulations to us. I don't know.
I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to think which one I should go with next. Okay, I'll go with historical romance.
Oh, right.
Okay, so the next book on my list is called A Dark and Stormy Night by Kerrigan Bryant. So this is part of the Victorian Rebel series. So if you haven't read that, I would highly recommend reading that whole series. It's so good.
It's very wordy,
angsty.
though. Be ready for that. It's very dense.
It is dense, I guess.
And
yeah,
dark.
okay, yeah.
Quite
it
dark.
is dense.
It deals with a lot of possible trigger warnings, so...
Yeah, it deals with a lot of stuff. It's very dark. There's rape in there. Mentioned, not usually on page, but it's mentioned. So that could be really, really tough to read about if it's a trigger for you. And a lot of other things happen in that series too. There's murders, there's killing. Like, our men aren't good people. They're usually the anti-hero of the story.
We love to see it.
Yeah, we love it. We love it. Like, I love anti-heroes. You don't understand. They are my favorite.
Girl,
if
I do understand.
Not
That's
in real life. Oh, okay.
I do understand.
Okay. Well, anyways. So this book starts off with, our favorite inspector, Carlton Morley. I don't know if you remember him. Did you read much of the first book, Marge?
I read the entirety of the first book, but is that a woman?
No, it's a man.
Doesn't she work for like that type of in that type of field?
Yeah. So the first book, the main girl, she worked for the man in this book.
Okay, yeah. Oh, cool. Of course, because she's a woman. She can't do it on her own, right? She has to work for a man.
Wasn't she like a secretary though? Like she wasn't really.
Because that's the fucking only job a woman can have back then.
Yeah, I know.
Secretary, and even then it was men for the most part. Ugh.
Yep,
Anyways,
I agree.
Frustrations.
Anyways, it starts off with we finding out that Inspector Morley isn't as clean cut as he says he is. We find out he's a vigilante of sorts. So this man dresses up in black every night and like deals with things. He takes justice into his own hands.
So he's like a lone wolf.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He ends up at a brothel. Doing an investigation of sorts when he meets our heroine, Prudence.
She works at a brothel?
No. So my girl, Prue, wants to have an exciting experience. She wants to experience good pleasure because she is being forced to marry, basically. She doesn't really want to get married, but she's like, whatever. I just want to have one night of fun. And she ends up meeting our man Morley here, and she mistakes him as a...
Gigolo?
Yes. And this girl's like, ooh, I like this one, so I'm gonna choose this one. And she literally falls into his lap, though, let's be honest. That's how they meet. She falls into his lap. It's very cliche, very cheesy, but I love it. And anyways, they actually have sex that night. Her still thinking that he works there as a gigolo. And anyways, things happen and they don't see each other for I forgot how many weeks or whatever. Next time they see each other, it's at her marriage, her ceremony. And she's about to be his next case because her fiance is dead and she's prime suspect.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So it continues on and like he ends up marrying her. But his inability to, like, trust her causes for, like, great angst because, like, he still sees her as, like, this person that possibly could kill this man even though he thinks he knows her. So it's like, yeah, he sees things black and white. He sees the proof and, yeah. It's like, it's good angst because, he can't trust her.
Well,
and it's very marriage of convenience-esque, like that's one of my favorite tropes, marriage of convenience. There's good angst, tortured hero for sure.
Yes.
And there's good smut. So, yeah. This was a really good read for me. It came out, like, this book came to me when I really needed a good read. Like, I was in a slump, I remember, and yeah, this book just hit me in the gut. I remember staying up again. I end up reading late into the morning. I guess no, early into the morning.
When do you not, though?
Yeah.
When it's not a good book.
You literally finish the podcast book every week, like at 4 a.m. the day of.
Well, because sometimes, you know, I procrastinate, okay? And then I'm like, shit, I gotta get it done.
I don't know how you're up right now, because it's like midnight for me, and you're like 3 a.m. for you, and you're up, and you're doing all kinds of stuff. And
it's really bad. I have a really bad sleep pattern. But anyways, we're not here to roast my sleep pattern.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about books. So yeah, recommended.
Which book is it in the series? Is it it's not the second one, right? It's like later on.
Which one?
That one.
This book?
Isn't it book?
This is the last book in the series, so
Oh.
it's like 7 or 8.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
a long series.
Yeah.
Okay.
Book 2 is good though. That one, she was like an opera singer and he's an assassin.
Ooh.
That one's good. The whole series is good, okay? I highly recommend the whole series. Victorian Rebels by Kerrigan Bride. Go ahead.
All right. So, from historical romance to historical fiction / romance / fiction, I don't know where to put this book,
Okay.
is my next pick, which is Longbourn by Joe Baker.
Mm.
So, this book, it's kind of hard to describe it. Essentially, okay, so it's like a very hated book online, which I don't really understand why. I think it's because, like, so it's a Pride and Prejudice variant / spin-off. So, like, what it means is that it takes place during the Pride and Prejudice timeline with the characters in the background, but it's actually about Sarah, who is a servant at the Bennet house, Longbourn.
Mm.
I think, like, why it's so hated is just because it's so different than Jane Austen. Like, it's just not something Jane Austen would write. But I think, hear me out, the reasons why this is so different from a Jane Austen novel are actually the reasons why I love this book, I think. Like, so like, the writing, for example, it's just, like, I know a lot of people shit on the writing because they're like, oh, it's so, like, it's so unfiltered, graphic.
Okay.
Sarah is a servant, as I said. So obviously a servant would, you know, have a very different vocabulary than someone of higher class. She would also be privy to details. She mentions it when she's taken out, like, a chamber pot that's full. She mentions it when one of the Bennet girls has her monthly courses. Like, she's not filtering her thoughts or what she sees, because that's just her reality. That's what she's used to. It's her daily life. So I love how not sugar-coated it is, because it's just so true to the character in a way. Like, it's, and I get it. Like, if you're a Jane Austen purist, you're like, what the hell is this? Like, you're desecrating this world. But I don't think so. I think it's actually, like, adding to the world, because you see a completely different version of the world that you never would have seen otherwise, right? Like, that's the kind of the beauty of being able to have variants like that. So anyway, the story is actually about, like I said, Sarah, who meets this new footman who is now working at Longbourn House. His name is James, and they have this, like, sort of Pride and Prejudice-esque romance between them. It's kind of like, I hate you, but then, because, like, you're kind of acting like you're better than me, to maybe I like you a little bit, to, like, actually I kind of love you. And it has, like, really beautiful moments, but also really tragic moments, which, again, is just Pride and Prejudice. What else do you expect, right? And it gives you, like, a completely different perspective of the Bennets, but also characters like Mr. Darcy or Wickham, who is absolutely disgusting in this book. I mean, he's disgusting in Pride and Prejudice, but, like, he is particularly disgusting in this book.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's I loved it. Like, it really made me feel a lot of things, this book. And like I said, I just think it really overall adds to Jane Austen's world without, like, it respects it, in my opinion, and it adds to it as well, which is great. So I don't know who the haters are, but y'all are wrong.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out then, do they not like that it's not filtered? Like, what is it that...
Well, I don't know. I mean, okay, so
like.
here's the thing. I'm gonna make a confession. I have not read Pride and Prejudice. I'll make another confession. I do not love Jane Austen's writing. So I think that Jane Austen, she's great. I love her. I love what she does. I think her stories did something at the time that others were not doing. I think she put on page people that other writers were not putting on page, i.e. Sanditon, for example. Like, she was portraying the world as she was seeing it, which is something that's very valuable, especially as an English major. So there's that. But her writing, I find, is very dense, and sometimes it's like she loses where she was going. She always eventually comes back to the point, but like sometimes she will go on and on for like 3 pages on like some kind of rant, and then eventually comes back to the point. You're like, okay, Jane, you could have just cut out all this. Like, that was not needed. So anyway, I guess like when you read reviews, like a lot of the people are like, if you like Jane Austen, don't read this book. And I'm like, well, why? Like, you shouldn't be reading Jane Austen variants, in my opinion, to read Jane Austen. You should read it because you like the world, you know?
Yeah.
Or you like the characters and you want to see a different version of them. Like, why should people that... It's like kind of like fanfic writers, right? Like, you shouldn't be reading it expecting it to be just copy and paste of like what Jane Austen writes, in my opinion. So
yeah,
I agree.
That was a whole rant, but anyway.
No, I totally agree. I feel like fanfic authors come across that as well, and like, sure, you can argue Longbourn is fanfic, but at the end of the day, I felt like it brought something new. I mean, I haven't read it, but the way you talk about it, it sounds like it's bringing something new and something...
It's original content to me.
Yeah.
Like, you have the Pride and Prejudice story unraveling in the background. Like, you have Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy coming together, and because like Sarah is like, she's a servant, and then she goes to live with Mr. Darcy, and wait, is it that book? Yeah, she goes to live with Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth when they marry. So like, it goes beyond that storyline actually, a little bit too. And so I don't see why you would hate on it. And if it's the writing, well, I hope I changed your mind. I hope I made you realize why the writing has some value and how it is actually quite perfect for the characters and represents them very well. Because if the writing was elevated and like super fancy and prosy, like, that would make no sense for someone who's a servant who has had like no education in life whatsoever, right?
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. I think, yeah.
I have a question. You don't have to add this to the podcast, but you say that Pride and Prejudice, Darcy, and all that is going on in the background in this story. Can someone do that? Like, is this book published, first of all?
It is, because it's been more than 100 years old, so there's no copyrights anymore.
So there's no... Okay, that was my...
So you can do whatever you want with Jane Austen's stories. All right. So, S.
My turn? So next on my list is 2 books. It's a series.
You like combine so many books. I love it.
I know. So it's called...
Is that cheating?
No, I said we could do it in the chat last night.
Yeah. So it's a series as one, because I read it back to back. Okay, so this one is called, and I have the books right here just to kind of show you girls.
Oh, the alien books.
Yeah. So the first book is called I think that's how you say it, Kree Captivity. It's the Nera Chronicle series by Cora Knight. It's basically about this team of explorers that go to this uncharted planet, and they do like an emergency landing. They meet the Neran natives. They're like, It's like Avatar on steroids, basically. It's a big purple men with horns and fangs. I don't think they have a tail.
Did you know it's like unpopular to like the Avatar movie?
I can see why. I mean, like
they're hot. I don't know what people are on about. Like, those big blue aliens are hot.
They're hot, but I think it's the idea of, like, being, like, a copy of Pocahontas, but also the white male savior trope.
But also just the ecological part of it is, like, kind of important, isn't it? The whole message of we're destroying things that are not ours to destroy. Anyway, big blue aliens hot. Anyway.
Yeah, they're hot. And tell us about these purple aliens. They're hot too.
Okay, so yeah, they really are. It's like, so the first book is like about 130 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's filthy. Like, it's filthy.
I mean, looking like that. Okay, we need to post, when we post this episode, we need to post a picture of this cover.
Yeah.
Damn.
So if you're listening, look up the cover for Cree Captivity by Cora Knight.
We'll post it. Don't worry.
I mean, tell me you see that alien coming your way. Tell me that you do not just drop your pants to the floor. Like,
I would literally drop to the ground, spread the legs wide,
look how hot they are. I don't know who drew them, but
that's my weakness. Like, people think I'm joking when I'm saying I want an alien husband. Like, they don't understand the types of books that I read. I'm not joking here, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're 7 feet tall, I think.
Yummy.
Yeah. Perfect really for big. My 5'2".
Big.
Let's be real there.
You'd be speaking to, like, his belly
dick?
button.
Yeah. His dick. Yeah.
I was trying to be family friendly, but okay.
I mean, let's be honest. That's probably the only thing that I'd be speaking to.
Okay, wait, hold on. I just read a book, and, like, in the book, the guy's really tall and the girl's really, like, short, and it's like a historical romance. So when they dance, the guy's like, "So you can talk to my third button."
Like, I'm sure, right? I'm sure. I love that.
That's funny. Anyways, back to the 7-foot aliens.
I thought what was it? Third button was like code for something else. But
no.
Okay. So the first book, it's about 6 explorers that go to this planet. They're saved by by the Nearan people, which is these purple,
hot men,
purple aliens. But the aliens they say they're gonna help them, but they capture them and plan to sell them for profit. But before they sell them, they go to like where they stay at and like give them like, let me rewind a little bit. Before that, they give them this like aphrodisiac fruit, and that kind of makes them like really horny. It makes the guys really horny and want to hump anything and everything. Yes, this book is really horny.
I love when she goes,
I love how serious you are saying that.
She goes like, they give them like this aphrodisiac fruit, and then it makes them really horny and wants to come, and
with a straight face.
Yeah, no, but
like she's reporting the news.
Tonight
at 8,
biology.
The men are giving aphrodisiac, which makes them really horny.
Watch as they become horny.
Yes. Stop.
We're making this really difficult for her. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'm throwing away the key again. It's gone.
Okay. So it's a really filthy, horny book. There's orgies.
Oh my
there's
God.
fruit.
Oh my God.
It's delicious. It's delicious.
Are there any females?
No. Okay, so this world is nothing but males.
Wow.
Nothing. So they don't know what females are.
I'm curious about how they procreate then.
The knots. It's MPEG.
Is it?
Surprise.
You know what?
What?
Now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, no. So the way they procreate, they have like, so it is kind of like Avatar. Because you know how Avatar has like that big old tree of like life where they take.
Yeah.
So the tree, they, from what I remember, in order for them to procreate, they have to
They have to fuck
spill,
on the tree, next to the
like
tree.
spill
close
their
to the
seed
tree.
on where the tree is at. Yeah. Seth.
My imagination is taking me places, people.
Oh man.
So from I remembered, like, that's, and then the tree kind of, like, you know, births the
Yeah.
Tree of life.
Yeah.
It pops
I
out
think
a
that's how I'm
baby
remembering it.
out of a branch or something.
We've heard of a stork, but now it's a tree.
It's
Yeah.
a tree. Yeah. So
That's
okay, so the second book, it's a thick one.
It's a thick ass book.
whoa. So she wanted to hook you in with all the horny
The
smut?
horniness, and then the
Yeah,
story comes
so
after.
The first one is like very horny, and then the second one is called Cerulean, and it's the king that they sell them to. So they end up selling them to the king, and it becomes more of a story. It's more emotional. It's still horny. It's still filthy. It's a good series. So it starts off horny and then it gets a little serious.
But still horny. Which is the
still
key
How
thing
many
I'm focusing on.
times? How many times have we said horny in the last
Horny.
like 5 minutes?
I don't know how I top that now. Like that was pretty good.
You know what's funny? So, like, at the beginning of the year, I don't know if you guys remember, we recorded an episode that never made it to the air because it was, like, what we've read in 2020 so far, I think.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
most of the books that we're currently talking about were on that list
Yes.
They were.
of the first part of 2020. So, that's
Yeah.
really interesting. So, like, we're kind of, like, the three of us kind of know what, at
The
least, like,
books
I
are
knew
about.
what that book was.
Yeah.
And, like, I
Yeah.
remember you talking about it before. And
Yeah.
then I've talked about Joe Baker in that other episode. So, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. And well, this is going to be more interesting because this book is the one that I'm going to be talking about was on the list as well. What were we going to say, S?
Oh no, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Sue that recommended this series because she's always recommending books and I'm always adding them. And this is one of the series that I actually read and I really loved.
You
So shout
know,
out
we
to
all
her.
have that one person online who we don't talk to, but they
Yes.
have the best recommendations, and you're like, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
So shout out to Sue on Instagram.
Yeah.
She's, yeah.
Woo, woo.
All right, Seth.
Or else we would not have known about these purple hot aliens.
Yes.
Who have orgies and are just really, really horny. Really, really
Yeah.
horny.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have horns, Marge.
Oh, of course. I'm sorry.
Right?
Of course. Of course. When we
The
when we
horns.
say horny, we just
We're
mean
not-
they have horns.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
horny
That's
as
it.
in two
That's all it
horns.
is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love it. Go ahead, Seth.
Okay, well, the next thing on my list is a series. Right now it's just 3 books, but I believe the author is writing more. It's Horde Kings of Drakkar. And it's by Zoe Draven. And this is at the beginning of the year. Well, 2 books were at the beginning of the year, and then the 3rd book just came out at the beginning of December. Just the series.
More horny aliens.
Yes, I should say it's a sci-fi book.
Yep.
It's like, okay, an alien planet. The humans migrated here after Earth kind of just like destroyed itself. So humans had to migrate to different planets, and this book series takes place on Drakkar. And it's comprised of different sects or species of aliens, I guess we could say. There's the Drakkar people, which is like the focus of the series, and then there's like the Gunthin aliens, which are like the villains of the series, and then there are the humans. And yeah, so basically the humans aren't living good lives on this planet. Like, all their food has probably been gone at this point. They're not really allowed to hunt on land, hunt the animals, because the gods find it, insulting, or like the people themselves, the aliens, find it insulting to their gods. So yeah, it just deals with a romance, each book. So there's a lot of Horde Kings. I don't remember how many Horde Kings there are, but each Horde King is in charge of running their own horde. And so basically it's, I don't know how to describe it. It's very Drogo and Daenerys-esque. So if you like Game of Thrones, this very much feels like a Drogo and Daenerys story. Each book
Except
feels
Daenerys
like
was royalty, wasn't she?
Yes. Yes, she was. But, like, the whole, like, horde...
Barbarian
Yes.
storyline, yeah.
Yeah. The kings are very barbaric, and the horde life is very much similar to the Dothraki clan of people. And yeah.
Oh, do we love a barbaric man?
Yeah.
Mm.
And these aliens have tails. I feel like I just have a fetish.
They
like a
do.
tail fetish.
But, like, that's my one gripe with the first book. It's like, so in the beginning of the book it says he has a tail, and then it's never mentioned again. And it's like a thick-ass tail, too. It's not like one of those thin ones. Well, I mean, I don't know. I remember thinking, where's the tail?
Yeah, I wanted tail play. That's one thing. That was my gripe. I wanted tail play. Yeah. So basically, like, a general, like, premise of, like, each book is, like, the females are always found in, like, a dire situation. Like, the first book, the girl offers herself up as a war prize in place of her brother because her brother committed some crime. The second book, which is my favorite, like, absolute favorite, the main girl, Nell, she kind of hunted, and it's just not something that she should be doing as a human. You're not allowed to hunt the animals on the planet. And she did that, and she's forced to receive a whipping by the Horde King, and he ends up claiming her, and then her wounds get infected, and he has to nurse her back to health. They fall in love. Yes, that's when you read.
I was like,
and like
he whips her?
No, he didn't. He ordered the whipping. But then, like, he saw, like, how frail her body was, and, like, is good angst, and like she gets infected, and like he has to like nurse her back to health, and whew, it's so good. And then he struggles with the idea of duty versus his heart because he's falling in love with her, but like his people don't want him with her. It's so good. And then the third one is kind of like the similar situation where like she is in a dire situation again, and she meets her Horde King, and he's dubbed the mad Horde King, and she is a slave a slave of the enemy alien species. And yeah, she has poison running through her veins, and she needs to get back to her slave owner before, the poison kind of kills her. And yeah, it's just angst all around. The series is good. Oh, book 3 has a lot of tales. A lot of mentions of tales.
Yeah. So when I said first book doesn't have enough tale, it's the second one. I didn't read the first one. I just gotta specify that.
Yeah. So highly recommend if you're into the whole alpha barbaric, trope. Man, I love it. Here for it. Tortured characters for sure, and a lot of alien sex.
Ooh, I love it.
All right. Is it my turn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Next on my list is Chasing Cassandra by Lisa Claypass, which is the,
fifth?
Sixth?
I don't know.
I've lost track. It's in the Ravenels series. To be honest, I don't really know what to say about this book other than I fucking loved it. But then again, it's written by Lisa Claypass, who is like the queen of historical romance. So like, do I really need to sell you on this one? You should just dive in. But I will try to somewhat make a summary of it. Essentially, what happens is that Cassandra is wrapped up in a scandal which was sort of forced upon her because some asshole is trying to marry her. And so Tom, the hero, is like, fine. I mean, I'm looking for a wife at the moment. I feel like I'm at that point in my life where I need a wife. So, like, we could arrange something, you and I, to, like, get married. And what's like really interesting in this book for me was Tom's character and like how he's quite like emotionless, but like not necessarily because of a traumatic past, which he definitely does have, but I mean he was an orphan, like had to fend for himself for years and years and years.
Yeah.
But I think Steph, you mentioned before that apparently Lisa Claypass said he was supposed to be a sociopath.
Yes,
right?
Yes, she did.
And so it's like, it's really interesting, and like not the creepy kind that like commits murder that is like really dramatized in media, but like just someone who actually genuinely struggles with emotions and empathy towards others and like remorse and such. So it's like really interesting and quite sweet to see his transformation of like him slowly figuring out how to be a good, loving, available, like emotionally available partner for Cassandra. And it's like, I don't know, it was such a sweet, beautiful story. Also very hot. I mean, it's Lisa Kleypas. Like, she literally cannot write a non-hot book.
Yes.
Also cannot write a bad hero. So I don't know. I really, really enjoyed it.
No,
I really did.
I did too. That was another book that I wanted to be on my list, but I let Marge have it.
That was my 1 5 stars of the year.
And I think
this is the 5 one.
And it deserved that 5-star. It was such a great book, a well-told romance, and like again, it's very much like their growth individually as it is, like as their growth together. Both were important in the story, and like you said, Tom's growth as like an unfeeling type of man, not really understanding emotions, being confused by emotions.
Like he's not mean. He just doesn't really understand emotions. And so when he says like I feel like I'm ready for a wife, it's not really because he wants a wife. It's just like, well, I feel like I'm at that point in my life where I should have a wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
so it's just like the next step for him.
Yeah, and like he sees Cassandra and he wants her. He doesn't really know, what else there could be. He just knows he wants her. And yeah, I love that. That book was really good. It's deserving of a spot on that list.
There's this whole plot of like Cassandra making him read books, and like he completely misunderstands the point of the book.
Yes.
Like for example, I think doesn't he read like Pride and Prejudice or something like that, and he completely misunderstands the point. Like that's just his character, and it's just so lovable. And like at some point he really stands up for Cassandra and her rights, and like it's beautiful. It really is. Lisa Kleypas can do no wrong. So
yes, and isn't there a little boy in the story as well that he finds off the
there's
street?
The whole like orphan, that he takes under his wing, and
that relationship was so cute.
I think his name is like Baz.
Yes.
Is it Baz? Something like that. Yeah.
It's Baz.
Basil. Basil.
Yes. And like
loved it.
It was so good. Yes, I highly recommend that book too. Such a good book.
So the next book on my list is The Bad Guy by Celia Aaron. This one is about, I think you read it, Seth. Right?
I started it.
You tried it. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried it out.
So this one is about Sebastian and Camille. He is known to be, I guess he was clinically diagnosed as a psychopath. Is that a thing?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. We got sociopath and like psychopath. And all those fun things on the podcast today.
I love it. And so basically it starts off where Sebastian's company has like I don't know if it's like a holiday party, some kind of party, and one of his executives takes his girlfriend, and Sebastian lays eyes on her and like automatically is like, I want this, like I want her, like she's mine.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't say like he fell like head over heels, because he doesn't know what love is. He has no empathy. He just sees something that he likes and he wants it. So he meets Camille, and he
Psychopath is the one that is uncaring of other people's emotions. Like they're unable to understand other people's emotions, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, what's the difference then between psychopath and sociopath? Because when I was looking up sociopath, that's kind of what it was saying too.
Sociopath, I think, is when they themselves don't understand their own emotions.
Oh. And psychopath.
I might be wrong. It might be the reverse. Let me double check that.
It's all very interesting. I find this stuff fascinating.
Okay, so
did you type like difference between a psychopath and a sociopath?
Yeah.
Okay. So for like a quick answer.
So for your last book, Marge, was he a sociopath or psychopath?
Apparently that's what Lisa Kleypas said. Yes, that she was modeling him after a sociopath.
A sociopath.
See, like I'm not really getting. All they're saying is like some experts see sociopaths as hot-headed. They act without thinking how others will be affected, and psychopaths are more cold-hearted and calculating. They carefully plot their moves and use aggression in a planned-out way to get what they want.
Well, that would be more Tom then. A
Yeah.
psychopath.
But I remember clearly reading Sociopath.
Well, if you, listener, have a better definition of both and understand them, then let us know, because clearly the internet is not helping us today. Surprisingly.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay. And then, so Camille is a high school biology teacher. So basically, Sebastian makes up, I guess, this fake trip to the Amazon. And he plans that supposedly Camille's going to go take the trip. But actually
Yeah, so he is a psychopath.
He is a psychopath. So he ends up kidnapping her.
Yeah.
For like a month-long trip, and he hides her out at like this estate, like in the middle of nowhere.
And he plans to fake her death.
Yeah.
So like he
I
can
completely
keep
forgot
her.
about that.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
And he ends up dyeing her hair. Oh, I love stories like this.
I haven't read Dark Romance in so long.
I know.
But you know what the funny thing is? You loved this book, but for some reason, and I like dark romance as well, but I couldn't get into it. I think it was her character. For some reason, I couldn't get behind. I don't remember what it was about her that I just, I didn't like.
No?
Yeah.
I loved it.
I think I stopped when, do you remember the part where they ended up, like, he ended up going into the city with her? And, like, they went to dinner and all of that. I ended up stopping once they returned back because I think she tried to escape or something, and like he was like, it's not
was that the
happening.
scene where they're like in a penthouse and they like do it against the window, and like her
Yes.
ex or her
Yeah.
boyfriend or whatever sees, and he kind of like, is that her or is it not?
But he's also like cheating on her with some other woman.
Yeah, he's a creep.
My goodness.
Yeah. I don't know why I never finished
Would
it.
you ever go back?
I might. I don't know what it was about the story itself, or was it about Camille that I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. The smut was good, and he's such a good dirty talker. I remember that.
He is. I love it. And I want to read this this quote.
She came with quotes?
I have, it's just for this one, just a quick little that I don't know. It's he kidnaps her and he's a psychopath, and okay, so it starts off, you stole me from everything I saw, but instead of fighting him, I clutched him tighter. Everything. He didn't respond, just stroked my hair and held me as I fell apart. I cried until my ribs ached and my tears streaked onto his chest. When I quieted, he smoothed the hair from my face and kissed my forehead. I'm sorry. I withdrew and wrapped my arms around myself. No, you aren't. If you were sorry, you would let me go. I can't, he sighed. You're afraid I'll tell? And then he says no. Then what? He's like, I don't think I can live without you. And
okay, I should not be saying aw to that.
I love how it's when he's literally talking about kidnapping her.
Yeah.
And then let me just read this next little part. The words would have... I'm sorry, I love this guy.
Read the whole book.
And then the words would have warned me if they'd come from anyone else. From him, they were cold prison bars. Why? I sniffled. I don't know. He pulled the sheet up and tucked it around me. Ever since that dance, you've been embedded deep inside me in places I didn't even know existed. I didn't know what to do about it at first, but then it hit me. I needed you. And then he kidnapped her, dyed her hair, was gonna fake her death.
Yeah.
And then she's a biology teacher, and she has a special interest in botany. I think that's how you say it. In like plants and like flowers. So he built her own
and like
little
she even
greenhouse.
had students looking for her as well. Like it was messed up.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Like dark romance is so interesting for putting on the page crazy ass characters, and then it's so fun to see the author have to do the work to make you believe in their love and like make you want them to get a happy ever after, because some of these people are messed up and like do messed up things and hurt each other, not just like a little bit, but like sometimes it's like really heavy stuff, like consensual things, and you're like, you're gonna have to work to make me like this person, and they kind of manage it. It's insane.
No, I agree. And like, there's some dark romances where you literally need to throw your moral compass out the window, because if you keep it with you, you're gonna be like, you're not gonna be able to enjoy the book. Like, Captive in the Dark is one of them. I think we talked about that earlier on in another episode. And then there's also Tilly Cole's what is it? The Brotherhood one, where they're all like murderers. They're all serial killers. But we all should root for them in some sort of way, because
Raphael? Like that series?
Yes, Raphael was the first one. And his dream kill is basically choking a beautiful woman to death. And like, he finds that perfect kill in the woman that will be his love interest. And it's just like, how do we root for them? How do we root for their happily ever after if he just wants to kill her?
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's something so liberating about separating yourself from that moral compass, like you said.
Yes.
Like, just shoving everything out the window, like everything you believe in, everything you stand for, and you just embark on this journey of darkness. Ugh, it's fun. It's fun. I haven't done it in a while. You have to be in the mindset for it.
Yeah, you do. They're pretty heavy.
But they can take you places. They can definitely start conversations with yourself. Internal conversations like, why do I like this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
because, bad guy being one, why did you like it? What about it was something you liked? It's not like, you wouldn't go out looking for a psychopath as your love interest, like, at all. Like, that would not be your partner. But what was it that made you, like, what called to you?
God, I don't know.
that's a heavy question.
Just the fact that he wanted her and he did everything. I think that's what.
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't really necessarily have to answer it.
No.
Because,
But no, it gets you thinking, like, what is it about these type of characters and stories that make you like them, make you want to read more of them,
I remember seeing a tweet that was like, the appeal of the villain is that there's literally nothing that would stop them from giving you the world. Like, they would burn it to the ground if it meant they could love you. And I kind of feel like that's also sort of the appeal of the dark romance. Like, it's such messed up, intense relationships that you get that fantasy of like, what if you met someone who was just absolutely fucking insane and like would literally do anything to get you? You know what I mean? And obviously what's appealing in that is that it's safe and fake. But like that's I think that's part of the appeal too. It's just like exploring those, like, what if you met someone like that? How does romance look for people like that?
Yeah. And I think it's exactly that. I was just going to say that. It's like, how does romance or love or affection or intimacy, how does that, work for a psychopath? How does that look for them? But yeah. And I think he also kind of had a tragic backstory too. I just feel like all of it combined, it just makes for a good read.
Yeah.
Heavy read, but a good read.
So yeah, I recommend it. Read it. The Bad Guy by Celia Aaron.
I feel like we finish every single recommendation with that, but it's like, obviously we recommend it. This is our top of 2020.
Yeah. Whose turn is it, Seth?
Oh, it's my turn?
Last one.
All right, I made my decision.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay. So, I mean, I couldn't not talk about
a Turkish show.
So this is the one that you girls probably get so irritated with me for because it's all I talk to. Even though, okay, I know you girls don't even care one lick about the show, but I don't care. I still talk to you guys about it.
Is it Mustache Guy? Is it the guy with the mustache? Okay. The guy I don't like.
Hey, I don't know why you don't like my man, but I love him. Okay.
He's not my type, but there's very hot Turkish men. I will say that.
I think it's just like his character. So like initially for me as well, like he wasn't really like someone that I was, dying for. But as the show progressed and as like interviews and like other things about him came out, I'm like, yeah, love it, love him. I will, I will do things,
What type of things, Steph?
I mean, all of them.
Please be more precise.
Yeah.
I mean, my fan fictions that I've written about this man, I mean, they're very descriptive. Anyways, I don't even know. Okay, let me just talk about it. Okay. So the next and last thing on my list is the show called Emanet, which means legacy in English. It's a Turkish show if you haven't already got that part yet. And it's very much enemies to lovers. Like, starts off with, like, the main girl, she finds out her sister is dying in the hospital, so she goes to the hospital, and then her sister is like, I'm entrusting you my son, like, go and get him from this house, because, like, he's not gonna have a good life if he ends up living there. So the main girl, her name's Seher, she goes and gets the kid. Obviously, she hasn't met the uncle yet. And then the house is very cold, and, like, we find out that the uncle is very cold and untrusting and, like, isn't a great guy. And then, so she takes him, and then the uncle, finally their first meeting is, like, at her house as he's taking back the child, and, like, he doesn't even say a word to her, he just looks at her, and he just takes the child, and she's running after him, and, like, anyways, it's just, like, it's insanely dramatic, which, I love the drama, and, why I say it's enemies to lovers is because, like, he doesn't want her in the child's life at all, despite, like, her probably being, like, the best human being ever. He doesn't trust women. His mom was a bitch, awful woman. Like, I hated her. He hates her. Everyone hates her. And, like, it's just, like, his growth as a character was really great for me. I mean, yes, he's done some problematic things. He might have locked her up in a basement. He might have, like, set his dog on her. He might have, like, let her almost die, in a fire. He might have put her in prison.
Oh my god, this is so bad.
But for me, it's like, I understood him in the sense where, like, he is so untrusting of women because of his childhood. And, like, it doesn't make it okay, but, like, I think for me, it's, like, his growth and, like, his, I don't know how to explain it, but, like, I don't know. He does a good grovel.
I just love how we started off so sweet, and then somehow we just reached a part of this podcast where it's all the books that are like
because
problematic
the listeners in.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. For me, the reason why the show calls to me is, as I said, like, his growth, and I feel like their growth of a romance, because it starts off at the beginning with them not having, like, anything to do with each other, and then they're brought together by this one child. And, like, they absolutely hate each other. She is obviously afraid of him, rightfully so. But she doesn't really show it. All she cares about is her nephew. And then, like, as the story progresses, we start to see a softer side of him being brought out because of her and, like, because of his nephew. And, like, he does a good grovel, yeah, but then it's also, like, his realization that maybe he's undeserving of her because of all the things he put her through and because of his life, because he is part of, like, he does a lot of illegal stuff. They don't really show you much on it. He has blood on his hands literally and figuratively most of the time, and, like, he's just not, what the type of guy that this sweet, caring girl should go for. But yeah, anyways, it's a good show. Anyways, it's just the cutest because we're at this point now. Yesterday, our girl's finally realizing that she has feelings for him, and, like, she's avoiding the shit out of him because, like, she's blushing, and our boy, being a 30-something-year-old virgin, is not understanding why she's so flustered all the time, and, like, why like, her face is all red, and it's just the cutest thing, and, yeah. Anyways, these two own my heart, and I will go down
with
fighting
that
with
show.
these two.
Yeah. So the show is still continuing on, right? It's still ongoing?
Not stopping. We're on episode 88.
Oh god.
So
my god.
we're only now getting her realization that she loves him.
Oh my god.
Such his face.
Yeah.
The patience.
But it's, like, all about this is, like, the epitome of slow burn. So basically, okay, I need to give you an example because my dad even got into this show. So basically what happened was, a few episodes ago, she was because he was pulling away because he was realizing he loves her, and he doesn't know if, like, the life of, a man in love or, like, a man that has a weakness is for him. And, like, so our main girl was like, you need to give up the darkness, like, for your nephew, for your brother, and then also for me. I'm telling you, my house went crazy. Even my dad started screaming on the chair. We're like, oh my gosh, it's finally happening. Spoiler, he did give it up. He buried his guns.
Why does that sound like Kylo Ren? give up the darkness, and then like when he like flings his lightsaber into the ocean.
Yeah. No, it was great. So yeah.
Seth clearly has a type.
Yeah, I really do. It's very telling. I like the men who give up the darkness, and also over 30 virgins.
No, that one though is not for me.
Ben Solo went down a virgin, okay?
God, no, I refuse to believe that. They had sex mentally. They mentally fucked each other. That's what I choose to believe.
Everywhere they did, mentally.
Horny dreams. Or horny shared dreams.
Yeah. Spiritually, they fucked.
Spiritually?
Spiritually, they fucked.
Alright, moving on.
Oh, God. So my last book is The Hostage Bride by Jade Feather.
What?
It sounds problematic. Okay. I swear it's not. So the premise of this book. Okay, so this book is actually, funnily enough, kind of the opposite of the very first book I talked about, Fate's Star. In how, like, so remember Warna, she's kind of like, she loves the peaceful life. She's not a warrior. In this case, Portia is like the opposite, where Portia, this is a historical romance novel, by the way. It's not fantasy, but she's like the heroine who is kept at home, but has always wanted to be a soldier. So the basic premise, without getting too much into it, is like there's these two, I guess you could say clans, but like they're not Scottish, so like I don't know what you would call them, but like essentially two families, rich families. One of them is taken for the parliament and one of them is for the king, and it takes place in like the 1600s. So like if you're a history person, you probably know what the fuck kind of history I'm talking about. I don't know what was going on, but history stuff happens. And so Rufus has like this whole idea to kidnap the daughter of the other family as like a war prisoner of sorts, I guess. But instead, he kidnaps the wrong girl. He kidnaps Portia, who is the bastard child of the brother of that guy. So like, does that make sense? So it's like her uncle is the main
villain?
No, so like her uncle is the other leader. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes sense.
So anyway, so she gets kidnapped and then he brings her to his like camp.
What are we doing?
But like it's okay, it sounds wrong, but I swear to God, it's actually a really sweet story of like Rufus as these two adorable kids who, you know, were raised on in like a war camp where there's not really any women, so like they're just absolutely rough little kids. They just have no sleep patterns, no nothing. They're just absolute like little monsters, but they're so adorable. And like obviously Portia like arrives and like she sort of becomes like a mother figure to them, but also Portia has these grand ideas of becoming a soldier, and like she starts learning how to fight. Like Rufus allows her to practice that and like become one of his soldiers. I think they get married at some point, to be honest. The book is a little vague in my brain, but essentially Portia gets like stuck in the middle because she's like, her allegiance are now with Rufus because she's fallen in love with him, but also like she's fighting against her family and she feels really guilty with that. So it's like this whole thing of like, is she is she betraying her family? Is she not? Is she betraying Rufus? And like there's like lies and deceit and like, you know, people are questioned, and it's just, I mean, I wish I could explain this better, but you know.
What time period is it set in?
1600s.
Oh.
And like, to be honest, I think the biggest surprise for me is that this is one of those like older, I was going to say old school historical romance. It's in a sense not an old school, but like it's a older historical romance written in the 90s. So I was really quite surprised with how feminist it was in its messaging. Like, Portia takes no shit. She goes on that battlefield. She fights. She's the only woman there, and she owns it, you know? And she does what she thinks is best. And in the end, she chooses not to betray either of them. She's like, you might be my husband, but that's my family. So, and vice versa.
You said that he had 2 children prior to Portia.
Yeah.
Is it a dead lover trope or?
No, I think the kids were like children of some village wench or something. Like, I don't think it was like a love story at all.
Oh, okay.
If I remember correctly, if it is like a past lover, it really wasn't like something that tainted the story in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
The kids were really cute, so like really, really, really cute. And like Rufus with his kids, oh my god, my ovaries exploded.
Really? Okay.
He's such a cute dad.
I might add that one to the list.
It's good.
My list is too long at this point.
I mean, that's the point, isn't it? Like, for these to sound good so that people actually want to read them because they deserve it. So,
all right, as your last one, let's go.
My last book is dun, 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 The Wicker King by Kate Angram. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. But I'm going to read the blurb because I don't think I'll be able to kind of explain what the book is about. So the synopsis is, when August learns that his best friend Jack shows signs of degenerative hallucinatory disorder, he is determined to help Jack cope. Jack's vivid and long-term visions take the form of an elaborate fantasy world layered over our own, a world ruled by the Wicker King. As Jack leads them on a quest to fulfill a dark prophecy in this alternative world, even August begins to question what is real and what is not. August and Jack struggle to keep afloat as they teeter between fantasy and their own emotions. In the end, each must choose his own truth. And I love this book because of the way it was designed. So you're reading the story and you start to see when things start to go darker with the characters. And the paperback shows you when things starts to go dark. Like the pages actually start to go like, I'm showing the girls, like it starts to go darker
and darker. Yeah.
And then the pages turn black when it's
nice.
I don't know. I just love it. Like they have like arrest reports in here, drawings, like pictures of like a mixtape, a CD. I don't know. I loved it. And it I want to say it's kind of like an MM. Like you don't know if it's pushing that line, if it's MM or if it's not, because they're best friends and they get really close. So it's kind of like.
But you wouldn't say there's romance per se? Like it doesn't cross the line?
I think it does cross the line, but I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Like it does kind of cross the line, but then it kind of.
But you question if it's all happening in his head? Is that it?
A little bit.
No? Okay.
But I wouldn't full on say like it's like MM. But maybe it is.
I love it when the creativity doesn't stop with the words. Like it actually also is like the placement of the words on the page, or like images that are put into the book or whatnot. Like I really like when that happens.
Yeah. And it's not random. Like it goes with what's being said, what's being shown, what's being told. So
really enhances the message. All right. Are we done?
Are we doing our honorable mentions?
Yes, we will, but like quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to start, Seth?
Sure. So honorable mentions: Slow Heat by Lexi Blake. Sorry, is her name Lexi? Letta Blake.
Letta Blake.
I wrote that. I think I was talking about Alexi at the same time I was writing this. Okay, let me restart. Okay, so honorable mentions is Slow Heat by Letta Blake. It was one of our episodes, earlier episodes actually. Loved it. I read it this year. I reread it again this year. Loved it. Another one from a previous episode of the podcast, Couture and Lord Death by Martine Levitt.
Yes.
Which is a recommendation by Marge, and
yes.
loved it. And another Turkish show was Herjai. I talked about it again in our Chit Chat episode, I believe. Again, highly recommend if you love the angst and drama and all that stuff. And then another Turkish show that I started last year. It's called Hayat Sharkezi. It's another really good Turkish show.
This girl be over there speaking Turkish.
Seriously,
I will
right?
say, Amanet has forced me to learn Turkish because there's no subtitles, and like my obsession with Amanet is so strong that I would try and watch shows and understand maybe like 5 words. But I mean,
Isn't
it's
that
better than none.
I mean, good for you, but that's kind of insane, but cool.
Yeah, so Hayat Sharkezi is another show that I highly recommend. The reason why I think this one stands out is because this time it's not a man that's the anti-hero, it's the female, and it's very good. She does a lot of bad stuff to get what she wants, and what she wants is a family, and like ultimately the main guy of the show. She even like ruins her sister's chances and her honor just to get the man because he was originally promised to marry the sister, and she's like, I want him. So she literally ruins her reputation, and her husband wants to go. He's a professor and he studies people and biology and all that stuff.
The honorable mentions are supposed to be quick.
I know, but I'm just saying why I like it. Okay.
She's over there,
anyways,
telling us the whole plot.
I just want to say that she even fakes this like sexual assault situation so he gets fired from the university so he doesn't go away, and like you're supposed to root for her. And anyways, Jesus. I love it. I love her. She's
I'm
really
the time
bad.
police. Come on, I'm the time police now. Go on.
I'm done.
What's next?
I'm done.
Oh, that's it?
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay.
Go, Marge.
Okay, so just saying, honorable mentions are not, any less good than what was in their top 5. It's literally just because of stuff we've mentioned before.
This is why I couldn't stop talking.
Okay, so my honorable mentions are the Alpha Omega series, which, like I said, but Patricia Briggs, by the way, like I said, you can go in our catch up and chill episode, the first one, to hear me talk about it if you care. The second one is The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which you can also hear me talk about in that same episode. Then, as far as the Immortals After Dark books, I picked Kiss of a Demon King, because Rydstrom and Sabine, and also The Warlord Once Forever, because those were the 2 standout books for me so far. And last, but certainly not least, the Bridgerton TV show, which it hurt me not to put it on the top 5, but I figured we talked about it for like 5 hours in two podcasts, so I'm not gonna say anything, but I love it. Yes.
Okay, so for my honorable mentions, it's the Wolf series by K.A. Tucker. I talked about it on our Catch Up and Chill episode, so check that out. I highly recommend it. The next is Jessica Kane, the author. All her books, all her backlist. If you're in the mood for ridiculously smutty and filthy and you want a quick read,
I love how this turned into, let's recommend an entire backlist of an author. We're the worst.
So Jessica Kane, recommend. And then Katie Roberts, she released a Taboo series. Let me see.
Was that the one with Jafar and Jasmine?
No. This is a different one.
Oh.
But
I want to read
all her books are good.
Okay, another backlist. Just go read Katie Roberts.
So this one is the Touch of Taboo series, and it's the first book. It's about the heroine finds her fiance cheating, so she sleeps with the dad, and then the second,
my goodness,
it's for revenge. She sleeps with the dad, and then the second book, it's where the best friend shares his wife, or no, the husband shares his wife with the best friend.
Oh my
very,
God.
very taboo, very steamy.
That is very taboo.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then
that's why it's called Taboo, I think.
Yeah,
I'm uncomfortable. No, I'm kidding.
And she has another book coming out this year. So, I mean, if you're in the mood for some taboo, some smut, definitely check it out. And yeah, that's it for me.
All right. Does anyone want to say anything? Seth, do you want to jump into the plot of Turkish
No, because, I'm just going to get cut off again. All I know is Turkish shows own my life. I mean, I think everyone knows that at this point.
Yeah, I think we do. I don't know, like in one word. Okay, let's do a thing. In one word, how would you describe your reading year in 2020? Silence.
Like, I had, like, good, like, amazing reads, but...
This is not one word.
I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Go ahead. You have a word. Let me think. Go for it.
I just need to find out the actual word for what I want to say.
Okay, well, mine would be, I'll start then.
Because you were prepared.
I wasn't actually, but I thought about one on the spot. Thank you very much. I would say surprising. Like, I surprised myself with what I read. I was going to say diverse, but I kind of think that word should be applied to other things. So I'm going to say surprising. And that's that.
I originally was going to say, like, topsy-turvy. But I don't know. Because, like you, it was all over the place. But also, I was in slumps quite often this year. So topsy-turvy kind of works in the sense where, like, I had really high highs, and then sometimes I'd read a really obscure type of book, and, I would be a hit, and it wouldn't usually be a hit for me, like other years, but yeah, topsy-turvy is what I'm going with.
Hyphened, so that it's one word.
Yes, so it is one word, it's hyphened. Miss Word Police over there, and Time Police.
I am the authority.
Okay, so for me, I would say one word to describe the reading year.
Yeah.
She's trying to buy more time.
I'll say smutty. Because I read a lot of smut.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay.
Very, very smutty year. 2020 was a reading
A lot of
year.
Jessica Kane and Katie Roberts. That's what happened.
And alien dick.
Yeah.
That too.
So smutty.
We
it was
love
a smutty year.
We love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is it, I think, for our episode on our best of 2020. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you got a lot of recommendations out of it. That's kind of the point. We hope it was entertaining enough and spicy enough that it made you want to read these books.
I just want to say I hope 2021 is a good year for us in terms of reading. And I hope your
And when we say us,
list...
we mean you as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Just us. You can have a terrible year, but we here.
No, I meant us
three.
as in, collectively we're a community of readers. Yeah, I just hope that we all have great hits for 2021.
We might not see you for a short while. We are going to stop posting for a few weeks just so that we can grow a backlist of episodes again, so that we can keep on being consistent when we are posting weekly. But we will be back with Untouchable by Kresley Cole. Actually, that will be your first book coming back, so I hope you're excited for that. The Kresley Cole read-along is continuing in 2021. It will end in 2021. At some point, we will get to, what's his name? Your guy.
Lothair.
To Lothair's book. At some point, we'll get there. And that's it. Oh, wait, no. Hold on a minute. You can find us on social media, by the way. On Twitter, we are at the Rtm Pod, or you can also find us on Instagram at Romancing the Monsters Podcast. You can also email us if you want to at romancingthemonsterspodcast@gmail.com. And you can find me at Foes and Lovers on both Twitter and Instagram.
And you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at ButThisBook.
And you can find me, Saf, on both Instagram and Twitter at Pros with Woes. And if any of our books or TV shows was a hit for you or wasn't a hit
Oh, heck
for
yeah.
you,
Let us know.
Let us know.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about things with you guys. Yeah.
All right.
Well, Bye.
See ya.
Bye.